attending our QA Babble webinar today. So if you haven't done already, if you could be very kind, just mute your mics. You'll find that option in the bottom left corner of your screen. Basic structure of the meetup today is going to be the talk from Louise Gibbs on Don't Run Before You Can Walk, which will go till around about 12:30. Following that, we'll have a Q&A session. If you're not familiar with Zoom, how we're going to utilize that is the functionality where you raise your hand. And to do that, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a little button called Participants. Click on that to open a little white box window. In the bottom right-hand side, you'll see 3 little dots. If you click on that, you've got the option to raise your hand, which I will then see. Obviously, I'll mute your mic and I'll direct your question to Louise, and she'll be able to help you out with that. Other than that, thank you very much. And Louise, if you'd like to take it away.
All right then, you can hear me, right? Excellent. Yeah. So hi everybody, how you all doing? Welcome to my talk, Don't Run Before You Can Walk. I'll just do a brief introduction of myself. My name's Louise Gibbs. I have my little blog, louisegibbstest.wordpress.com. And obviously I also use Twitter and LinkedIn a lot as well. And I'm a senior QA analyst at M&M Direct. Now, one thing you may notice is that my job title doesn't actually include the word automation. And the main reason for that is I've never actually held a role that specialised in test automation. That hasn't meant I haven't done any of it. And I've still got quite a lot of experience in it. And I think the reason I'm telling you this is because you don't have to specialise in test automation to do work, to become a test automation developer. You can still do that alongside the many other vital roles that are involved in testing. So before I carry on though, I'm going to start with a story. I used to do rock climbing. I used to love rock climbing. It was great fun. I've done it a little bit since, done that, but not so much in recent years. And there is a very good reason for that. On the 28th of May 2010, I went on a rock climbing trip in Snowdonia. I was rock climbing in the Clamberis Pass, and it didn't go too well. Unfortunately, I had an accident. I fell 80 foot down the rock face. Fortunately, I didn't hit my head, which probably would have killed me. I landed on my legs, but that had a few other complications. And now, how do I go next slide? Yes, so I broke both my femurs, both kneecaps, my left ankle, my right elbow, and a couple of ribs. And this did impact my ability to walk. Yes, the X-ray there is of my ankle. It's not supposed to look like that, as you can imagine. So obviously this wasn't permanent, luckily. I did get better, but this took a really long time. So it took several months of physio, exercising, strengthening my legs again, until I was able to walk again, and even longer before I could walk unaided. The photo on the right there is from our local fun run. I decided to sign up. I think it was about 9 months after the accident. And I signed up for the local fun run. This is a mile, and I managed to walk the entire way, which at the time was quite incredible for me, actually. As you can see, my mum followed me with a wheelchair in case I couldn't manage it. So the reason I'm telling you, when something like that happens, you don't go straight into running a marathon. It takes years of training. You start small, you start easy, and then you start to build up. And even when I was able to walk again, it was probably about a year before I was off the wheelchair permanently. And it's probably about another 2 years after that before I was walking without crutches. And then even after that, I trained. I continued going to the gym, continued to exercise. And anyone who knows me now will probably not realise that I actually ever broke my legs. I can walk perfectly fine now. And I can quite comfortably run 5 kilometres. But that took many years of training. It didn't happen overnight. And obviously these photos were taken 10 years ago. So it there is a long process involved before you can actually, start running again. And the same thing applies when you're doing test automation. You don't go straight into creating tests. You start small, you start easy. So you might start easy. You start by just running the tests. Now, even if a lot of people say that they can't code or they're not technical, we are working in IT. That makes you technical. Just because you can't code doesn't make you technical. And even if you can't code, doesn't mean you can't learn to code. So you just start nice and easy. You run the tests. And once you can run tests, you might then realize which one. You then start analyzing the test results, look at the ones that fail and look at debugging, working out why they're failing. Sometimes it can be an issue with the application that's being tested. Sometimes it can be an issue with the test itself. So you can investigate and try and find out why is the test failing. And when you then realize why the test is failing, if it is an issue, you can then look at updating the existing tests, making small changes. You can have, when you make changes to an application, the tests will need to be updated. So you can then look at updating the tests. And then as new features get added, you may want to add new tests to it. So you build up to that, you eventually do that. And then finally, you can get onto setting up entire test frameworks by yourself. So you need to ease into the role. You don't go straight into setting up a full test framework and creating new tests. Get to know the application, get to know the tests that are already there before actually running, before you can walk. So I told you about my story with my injuries. I'll tell you a little bit about my actual story of how I got into test automation development. I was lucky enough I've been learning to program since I was at school. My first programming language I learned was Pascal, where I was doing A-level computing. I then went to university where I studied computer science, and there the main language was Java. We use many other languages as well, but the idea is once you know one language, you understand how they work. You can then move into other programming languages. You don't need to focus on one. And then I started my first software testing job. So when my first software testing job, I basically went through a whole year where I didn't do any computer programming at all. But then I moved into developing the automated tests. And for this, I was using C#, and this is quite scary for me because I've never done anything with C# before at all. This was a completely new programming language. But luckily, because I'd had my previous experience of programming, I was able to go straight into C# without just trying to familiarize myself with the syntax, and then I was able to go into developing automated tests. Now, my first experience didn't go so well, and there were several reasons for this. At my job, we had no framework already in place, so I was developing it all completely from scratch. Also, we really didn't know what we wanted from test automation. It was sort of a case of, we wanted to do it. We wanted to do test automation, but we didn't really think of why we wanted to do it. Now, my previous programming experience meant that I had that confidence and that ability to learn, but this wasn't really enough. I basically went, it was partly my fault, partly the business's fault. When someone said test automation, it was almost a case of, oh, me, please. I want to do that. Me, pick me. I was a bit overeager. So I think that confidence and that ability to learn, it helped, but my first attempt didn't go so well. Luckily, I was able to learn from those mistakes, and my second attempt went a lot more successfully. So at least the first attempt, at least I had that learning experience from it, that experience which did help with success eventually. So, the idea is I think you need several things to be successful as a test automation developer. And the first thing is, you want that experience. You want to really understand how they work before going straight into developing a whole framework at once. So these are some things that I think you need if you want to be a successful test automation engineer. you need knowledge, not just about test automation, but you also need knowledge about testing. I mentioned before that I've never been in a specialized test automation role. I personally wouldn't want to be in a specialized test automation role. Other people may differ from that, but that's just my personal preference. And the reason being is I firmly believe that test automation is part of the whole test strategy. It's not the test strategy. So you need to also have manual testing involved in there as well. And I also believe that I don't think I could make the right decisions with regards to test automation if I didn't have knowledge of the full strategy. So I need to also have experience of manual testing as well. And you need knowledge of everything, not just test automation. And then you also need the skills to become a test automation engineer. So I remember someone once saying, and unfortunately I have not been able to find where I heard this from, the test automation engineer needs to have the testing mindset, but develop a skill set. And I imagine most people listening are already testers and already have the mindset. If you haven't already, you just need to get the skill set as well. And you need experience. You need to actually have get that experience, and that to build and to help build on those skills as well. And those three are what you need from yourself. That's what you need to get to be able to come into test automation. But you also need to have support and opportunities provided by the business that you work for. Business needs to provide you with the opportunity to get into test automation. If you haven't got that opportunity, you just need to, you need to make yourself known, let people know that you are interested in being involved, and then they will give you the opportunity. And they also need to support it. So that means they need to, give you the resources to learn and to practice and to get that experience. But also they need to give you the support, the time and the resources to actually continue developing the tests. If they're giving you all this work on testing manually, then you're not going to have the time for test automation. So they need to actually give you that time and provide you the opportunity to be able to carry on with it. And then finally, you need confidence. And that is going to come from both yourself by developing those skills and knowledge and experience, but also from the business to, nurture that skill, those skills, nurture your talent as well. So not just go, without the confidence, you need to actually really be confident, really have that knowledge. So when we think about what I've said before, that you need to have things from both yourself and from the business. So I'll talk about what you can do, what you as a person can do. First thing, you're going to need to learn to code. There are a lot of tools out there that codeless tools out there, but there's not always guarantee that the business is going to provide those particular resources. They may prefer to choose to use a framework that is more code heavy. So just to prepare for that situation, you want to learn to code. If you're working for a business that's already uses test automation, find out what programming language they use and learn that. If you don't, good popular ones, Python and Java seem to be the most popular ones. Most of my experience has been in C#. So one of those three is a good one. And then don't just learn the language, you need to actually practice it. Simple coding exercises. I put a picture of a book there, Python by Example. I've chosen that one because this year I decided to learn Python. No particular reason, I just wanted to see whether I could learn a new programming language. And I started by buying a book, and I chose this book just because it included that slogan on the front, learning to programming in 150 challenges. I love this book because it doesn't go into these deep explanations about how things work. It shows you code examples so that you can then learn from them. It's definitely a book that I would recommend if you wanted to learn to program. and just work your way through the exercises that are in this book. It just provides enough explanation, but doesn't make you feel, doesn't have that too much explanation that make you feel almost scared to learn it. So that would be a book I recommend. But also, obviously, don't just learn to code, also learn about test automation, but also actually testing in general. So watch webinars, meetups, conferences, read blogs and articles, and also just talk to people, hear other people's stories, hear about how they learned, and then see what you could apply from that. And just generally learn about the best practices, and sorry, I was getting a bit croaky there. Learn about the general best practice of test automation, learn about how other businesses have applied it, and use that knowledge to think about how your current company could best apply it. Becoming a test automation advocate. So I mentioned the business needs to provide you with the opportunity. They need to know that you are interested in it. So talk about what you've learned, talk about your skills, become known within the business. Say, I want to be involved in test automation development. Because they may not provide you the opportunity if they don't know you're interested. So, and talk about it. If that business doesn't actually have test automation framework in place yet, talk about the benefits of it. Let them know that it might be something worth doing, so that they then start to get involved themselves. And finally, I also mentioned, don't forget the other testing skills. Test automation isn't the only thing you need to know. You need to look at other test planning, test frameworks, test techniques, anything. Don't just focus on test automation.
Mr. Jones.
Now, those of you who work for a business, those of you who are who work for a business that already have a framework in place, or part of a team, maybe heading a team that wants to introduce test automation, the first thing you need to do is provide time and resources for development and maintenance of the tests. Once the test framework is in place and you've got your tests in place, you're not going, it's not going to end there. You need to continue that. It's not it's a journey, but there isn't always like a set destination in place. You need to continue with it. As the application changes, so the tests will also need to change. Now, if you don't already have an automation framework in place, please don't do what happened to me. Don't give it to someone who hasn't got the experience yet.
Sorry, Louise. Sorry to interrupt you. You might just want to pause for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we just have Aaron and Ramesh, could you please just mute your mics, please? There's a lot of noise coming from your side. Anyone else who doesn't have an answer, mute it, please. Thank you.
It just needs some process.
It's on the bottom left corner of your screen. I think we're good to go. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So if you are working for a business that doesn't yet have automation, isn't yet using test automation, and you want to get started, don't give it to. Okay. Don't give the task to someone without experience. It will probably be absolutely terrifying for them. You want to maybe, if you haven't got anyone in the testing team with that knowledge and experience, maybe ask the developer to help them get started, or even better, hire someone with experience. But don't give the job to one person. You want to involve the entire testing team. You want to try and involve the entire testing team in those decisions on how to set up the framework, what tests to create, what tests will benefit will be the most benefit. You want to actually talk to them as well. So involve the test team, entire test team, regardless of experience in automation. They will they will at least have knowledge on how best to of the test strategy, and give you that and provide feedback on and ideas about how best to apply it. Now, if you already have an automation framework in place, you want to provide the opportunity for testers to get involved. Don't give it to a single person because they'd say if that one person leaves the business, suddenly all that knowledge is gone. So you want to get as many people involved as possible. Allocate time for learning and coaching so that they can, again, always give them that opportunity to get involved. And finally, really encourage people to get involved. Don't force them. Test automation isn't the only thing that testers need to do. And it is there are many other ways that a tester may want to develop their career. So if they're not interested, or it might be usually the reasons are either they're not interested at all or they don't have the confidence. So provide that encouragement, but don't force them. Don't say you have to do this. There are other ways in which they can get involved and contribute to the overall testing effort. So, it's quite a general thing. It's not, test automation isn't the only thing we should be doing. So I'm going to talk about one of the best ways I've found with encouraging testers, helping them develop that confidence, is using pair programming. Don't throw them straight in there into the deep end and have them developing alone. So I always start with doing demonstrations on showing them how a test is set up. Sometimes if I've updated a test and I suddenly think, I really should be showing the team this. I've almost undone all my work and then started again from scratch, showing them how I did it, explaining how the tests are set up, explaining the process for updating a broken test, how you might debug something and then fix it, and also the process of creating a new test from scratch. Showing them what you do, setting up the locators and then test, but explaining how it is done. I found this is actually also not good for the developer as well, because I always say, if you can't explain something simply, then you probably didn't understand it in the first place. So try and explain it. Good practice to try and explain something and just see what your knowledge actually is. Next stage would be to ask the tester to update or write a test, but this time provide them with detailed instructions. Now, I've suddenly found this is a lot easier with screen sharing, and something I've definitely found with remote working, because I can't intervene at all. The tester is sharing the screen. I have to give them the instructions, and I can't go, hang on, let me do this for you. You can't do that. I've got to give them instructions. It's suddenly easier now with remote working. But yeah, just ask them to update the test, but provide them with detailed verbal instructions, talk them through the process, tell them what to do, and gradually they'll understand what they're doing. Obviously, then once they are at that stage, you can just ask them to update the test, but get them to do it. Observe, watch them do it. Maybe ask them to explain what they're doing so that you can see if their understanding is as good as they think it is. Also, if they are stuck or about to make a mistake, then you need to intervene. You need to jump in and go, actually, don't do that. So gradually, you'll find that those moments will become less and less. And then finally, get them to develop alone. Ask them to create a test alone without being observed, but obviously be available to help out if required. I find even now, even the most experienced developer will ask for help, may need to ask for help from other people occasionally. It's a case of you don't need, there is possible, there is nothing that you can't learn, but you shouldn't learn everything. Nobody will understand everything. So there will be people within the team who have different specialisms, and they mainly have a general knowledge of everything else. So, and also I think the big question is, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. So, and actually make the tester aware of that. Make the tester aware that they don't need to know everything. They can ask for help. And honestly, that's my final point, actually, really. don't try to learn everything at once. Really don't. You don't need to understand everything. You'll just overload your brain. I know that with the current situation, there is a lot of pressure to upskill and learn something new. You know, you can't go out, but then I think that can cause a real strain on your mental health. So, you know, bring back to my original message, don't run before you can walk. Learn things slowly, maybe come up with a plan of what to learn and take it one at a time. Don't go straight into it. Getting into test automation development, it is going to be a journey. It's going to take time, and you need to get that experience. And even when you are a fully fledged test automation developer, the learning won't end there. You need to continue learning beyond that. It never stops. So that's all I've got there. I thought I'd just take a bit of time to talk about some of my current projects. As I said, I'm not just learning. I'm not just studying test automation. I am learning other things. So as I mentioned, I have my blog, louisegibbstest.wordpress.com. One thing I've been doing a lot with the current situation, I've been watching a lot of webinars and posting sketch notes of them, and you will find a lot of them on my blog. I'm also at the moment trying to complete the 30 Days of Quality challenge, which was set by the Ministry of Testing. I am going to provide a little link about that in the next slide. And it's literally, it's taking a bit more than 30 days. By that, I mean, I've been doing it for 2 months now. But it's sort of like, I think it comes with don't try and learn everything at once. Don't feel pressured to keep going through that thing, because you think you'll just exhaust yourself. If I was sticking very rigidly to that 30 days to do that challenge, I probably would have just given up like within like day 3 or something. So, and also I wanted to talk about that because I'm not just learning about coding. I'm not just learning about programming. I'm learning about other things as well, other things around testing. And one thing about this challenge is having really, really make me rethink my definition of quality. So I'm really enjoying that challenge at the moment. I mentioned that I'm learning Python. I'm going through the exercises in the book Python by Example. But also, I recently discovered these things called Python cones. I will have a link on that for the next page. And all it is, it's a set of tests that are already set up, but they're all failing. And you have to just work through them and make the test pass. And I find that's quite a good exercise to do, because you're learning, you have the code already there. So you're not running from scratch. You've already got things. So you're essentially debugging tests that are failing. So it's a good exercise to go through. And also, this has actually inspired me to set up my own little thing called Fix a SpecFlow test. Now, I've used SpecFlow quite a lot for test automation in my career. I absolutely love it. It's a great thing. And I'm just sort of coming up with writing my own tests that are then failing, just like the Python cones, that someone has to fix. The ones I've created already, I've tested on my parents who have no programming experience at all, and they were pretty successful. I think they quite enjoyed the challenge. So they're not ready yet, but when they are, I will be sharing them. And also, I'm not just doing things related to testing. I have been taking part in a little fundraiser. Some of you might have heard about the 26 challenge. I think they chose 26 because of the length of the London Marathon, which was unfortunately cancelled. A lot of charities are unable to do their fundraising anymore, and they are struggling quite a lot because of the current pandemic. So I have taken part in a little fundraiser. I'm raising money for the Teenage Cancer Trust. If anyone can donate to it, even if it's just a couple of quid, I'll be so grateful. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing a little sewing challenge for myself, all related to the number 26 or 2.6. So hopefully, if you can donate, I'll be really grateful. Just some resources that may help you. The Test Automation University, they have courses related to so many different areas of test automation. So if there's a particular tool that you want to familiarize yourself with, they have several courses related to various different tools and frameworks which may help you learn or help you get started at least, and it's all free. There's the link for the Python cones I was telling you about. They're on GitHub. You just need to get that GitHub repository and the instructions. I think there were some instructions on how to get started with that. Military testing are a great place to go to for learning. They have so many webinars, meetups. I mentioned my 30 days of quality. You will find 30 days of testing. If you go to that link, there are many challenges on there, 30 days challenges. So if you want to learn something new, one of those challenges is a good way to get started. So there's one for API testing, there's one for, I think there's one for exploratory testing, there's one for test automation, and then obviously I'm doing the quality one at the moment. At the moment, they've recently released the DevOps one. So that's always a good place to go to. And obviously they're running a lot of meetups, they're recording them. They're also a good place to go to. They also have conference talks from their conferences available on there. Most of them you have to have a pro account, which costs, I can't remember how much it costs, but you can sign up to a free club account, and they have a small number of them free. And also just going out there and meeting people is always a great way to learn as well. And if you go to meetup.com, it's probably how you got onto this talk itself. It's a great way to learn. Obviously, with the current situation, they're all online now, but that shouldn't hamper your learning. Webinars are still a great way to meet people, ask questions. And finally, I mentioned my sketch notes. I thought I'd share this one only because it's it involves from a talk. Do we need to be an SDIT, obviously software developer in test, which is one of the many names for a test automation developer? I like this one because it emphasizes that you don't need to focus on. There are many other areas to have specialized skills in, and also includes a possible journey for building test skills. Now, this isn't one that you might want to follow. It depends entirely on what is beneficial to you and the business you're currently working on, but it's still an interesting one to look at. It may be a good example of a journey that you may want to set up for yourself. All these slides are available on, I have put a link up on my blog if you want to download these slides, and it also includes all my sketch notes as well, which you may find interesting to look at. And I realized I didn't put a slide on there for any questions, so I'll ask now, do you have any questions?
That's awesome, thank you, Louise. So yeah, guys, as mentioned, for this meetup, we're going to utilize the raise hand function. So for those of you not familiar with that, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little participants button, click on that, it'll open up a little window. At the bottom right, there's little 3 buttons, you can raise your hands, and that'll give me the opportunity to direct your questions to Louise. So straight in there, Michael Ruttenberg, obviously just muted unmute your mic accordingly. Michael, a question for Louise.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I hope you can hear me. So I have a bunch of questions, but I'll come back to them separately so I don't over flood everyone. So the first one that sprang to mind was, I've been testing for 15 years and I'm not an automation tester, and I've never worked in a test team. I've tried to do some automation on my own at home, but I don't seem to have the experience required to do the roles. I'm always either too senior but not enough automation, or replaced by somebody who does do automation. So my question is, do you think the industry should be addicted to the automate everything approach? Because I know lots of juniors who don't have automation either, and they're finding it hard to get into the industry, or they're in the industry and they can't get work. So what do you feel about the everyone must be able to automate approach?
So do you mean automate everything, every test, or everyone should be automating?
Everyone should be automating, and as much as possible. Exploratory testing seems to have gone out of the window.
So I think that exploratory testing should never go out the window. I think that if any application that is being developed to be used by a human should be tested by a human. And test automation should be only something to maybe just reduce the pressure of exploratory testing, because testing everything is going to be very difficult. At the same time, I think that everyone should have knowledge of the full testing strategy, which should involve both automation and exploratory testing. And maybe not necessarily everyone should be automating, but everyone should be knowledgeable of the testing strategy. And you should be, and I think that all teams should be encouraging everyone to be involved in the automation part as well as the exploratory testing, even if it's something as small as just running the tests, and then investigating any failed tests. And I think that's definitely it. And I think that I think everyone should have knowledge of automation, but not necessarily. But it shouldn't be the main focus of a test strategy.
It seems to be the prerequisite that everybody can automate to be able to even get in at the junior level, like Raquel posted, because I know Raquel, and she's having trouble getting work. I'm having trouble getting work with many years experience, but the automation seems to be the blocker.
So yeah, I'm not sure how to. I think you should. I really don't think, and I think companies should not be forcing people to go into automation if they don't want to. And it's really sad when that happens. I actually once got turned down for a job because I said I wanted to do manual testing as well as automation, and it was for an automation role, which I suppose, considering my idea that you shouldn't be going into automation entirely, you shouldn't be, is I suppose I understand it was a pretty good thing I didn't get the job. How to, I suppose, in a way, just upskilling is going to be the only way you can go forward. Unfortunately, a lot of the tools are very pricey as well. So Test Project has a free one, which is probably a good one to maybe get some of that experience on, and it's also codeless. So it just getting that initial knowledge of how to set up the tests.
I can code. I've been coding for years, but I don't have professional experience in it. And last week I got rejected for a role which didn't require automation because I didn't have automation. It was a senior role. It didn't even require it. And then it came down to, it's a blocker. We need automation, and many years of it.
So I'm not very much involved in recruitment, but that is very unfortunate. I think businesses should be giving you the opportunity. It's a really unfortunate. I think you do need to have support from both the business and as well as yourself. And it sounds like you have all the skills, you have the knowledge. You just need to get that experience. But you can't. It's very hard to get that experience without business aren't giving cope. And I haven't got an answer for that. I think really the best bet would be to maybe encourage businesses to give people a chance, not focus too much on automation. So yeah, sorry, I don't really have much of an answer for that.
I'd be happy to have a chat with you afterwards if you like, and see if we can help you out from that front, mate. So if you got the next question, please. Shreya, you put your hand up next. You might ask your question to Louise, please.
Yeah, hello Louise, thank you for the talk today and for all those who've organised this. Similar to what the previous speaker said, I'm in the same position where I've got 15 years of financial service experience, and sadly my employer has an automation team, but they prefer to recruit from outside. They get graduates and train them up, but when we ask with all the product knowledge whether we can take part in automation, we've been told that we should learn coding in our own time, and then they can consider whether we can join the team. So it's such a catch-22. Thinking of moving outside the organization, same thing as the previous person said. It's a blocker if you haven't got any automation experience or you can't demonstrate anything about automation on your CV. So where do you think we should start, given that we've been told to do it in our own time?
Well, I think it is so sad that a business isn't willing to invest in its own employees. It is very sad when that happens. I do believe that you should be doing I like to do some learning on my own time, but I'm also very lucky in that I don't have kids. Well, some people might think that's lucky, but I mean, I don't have anything. I don't have many blockers towards my own personal development, my own time. I have a lot of spare time. So, I think, yes, you should be doing some learning on your own time, but the business really should be supporting you with that as well. They shouldn't be, they should be investing in their own employees. And I find that very sad when I hear about companies that don't do that. I would suggest maybe starting, those Python cones might be a good way to start, because those are tests that are already set up, and all you have to do is make small changes to them to make them pass. So if it is Python that you are working, I don't know what language, do you know what language that your company support use for automation?
They use Scala.
What was that, sorry?
Scala.
Oh, I don't know much about that one at all, I'm afraid. So I wouldn't be able to help you specifically, but something, an example like those Python cones would be a good way to maybe get used to how tests might be set up, at least. So unfortunately, because if you don't use Python, I'm not sure how useful that would be to you. Unfortunately, I can't really help you much because I don't know anything about Scala at all.
Well,
Yeah, that's okay, but thank you for showing us some sort of guidance as to where to go with it, and knowing that there are other people like me who are listening today as well. I feel that I'm not the only one facing this challenge. I will be looking probably at learning Python and probably target another organization, where someone is giving a chance to at least demonstrate that you can do it, rather than sitting here and waiting for my chance. Thank you.
Raquel, you have a question, please, for Louise? Raquel.
Hi, how are you? I just wanted to say that I really like the talk, and thank you, Louise, because I really share your opinion that not everyone should focus on automation. But what I just wanted to say is that I totally agree with Michael that I'm searching for a job and I struggle so much because everyone asks for automation. I am more a QA analyst, manual tester. So I gather requirements. I'm part of the end-to-end testing, so I can do all of the stuff, but I'm not an expert on automation. And all they ask is someone to come in and be hands-on automation. And because I'm not, I don't get the job. So they say, oh, I really like you. You have very good skills, but, well, sorry, we really need someone with automation hands-on. And I'm like, yeah, thank you so much. So, I mean, how do? You can take 100 courses, but if no one gives you a chance, if no one gives you the opportunity to go into a company, if no one trusts you, how do you do it? I mean, I think it's kind of difficult. I mean, you can try whatever you want, but I mean, someone has to put a bet on you. You see what I mean? What should we do?
Raquel, I'll take this question because I think this is probably a little bit better suited for myself being a recruitment consultant. Unfortunately, there's going to be clients and companies out there looking to hire that you're just never ever going to change that mindset, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about that, unfortunately. I guess what you can do is, like Louise said, you can upskill, you can do the online training courses. In the society we live in these days, social media, particularly LinkedIn, that is your platform to elevate yourself and promote yourself and sell yourself. So what I would say to you is try and do the sort of the things that Louise has outlined with regards to online training courses, books to read, etc., and promote yourself on platforms like LinkedIn. Maybe like you say, you're trying to learn to be an automation tester, but you don't have the commercial experience of doing that. So what you could potentially do is go online and do a talk like this on a webinar about how you train to become an automation tester and in your journey to doing that. That will promote yourself. People would go in to watch your talk, etc., and see a bit about you. So opportunity to sell yourself, and people might think, oh wow, Raquel's doing all this. Yeah, I know someone that's looking for this kind of person. We're looking for that kind of person. Get it that way. like I said, the sad situation is you can't change everyone's mindset, but getting that image and platform of elevating yourself out there, that could really help. That's my best advice I can give to you, really. But if you want to drop me an email afterwards, speed@woodrowmercer.com, I'll happily have a chat with you and see if I can help with regards to what you're sort of looking for and how best to sell your experience.
Cheers. Thank you.
So I've got a question from Louise. Mike's not working at the moment. His question is, what is involved in creating an automation framework?
Ooh, yes. So it depends entirely what tool you're using, which pretty much sets them up almost for you. But generally, it just involves. I really should have an answer for this. I normally just start small, decide what locator strategy you want, pick your and just start with a very small, simple test, as simple as just opening up the application, and then start building them from there. Start opening up application and clicking on a button, open up application and checking that the button, whatever the button was supposed to do, has happened. So you click on a button and something appears, check that thing's appeared. And I've really just never really thought it through at all. It's sort of like usually become quite straightforward, but generally just starting off by picking what tools you want to use to help you out, what language you're going to use, and then just setting things up. I'm sorry I haven't been able to give a proper answer for that. So I'll try and do. What's your general automation strategy? So, what's involved in creating an automation framework or setting up an automation strategy? I suppose if you think about the overall strategy, looking at what testing you already have in place, what you currently do. If it's all exploratory focused, then maybe thinking about the at-risk areas of the application, and then the areas that are all the most crucial areas of the applications. If the website if a particular feature went down, that could cause the entire website to become unusable. Maybe that's something you want to check because you want to know pretty quickly if that breaks. So maybe choose those areas, keep them very simple at first. So just simple of a simple process of checking that area is working. And then maybe just then going a bit deeper as you develop the tests further on. So making them useful as soon as possible, keeping the tests simple and then building them up as you go. So that you can get that early feedback and the business can look at it and go, oh, wow, these are amazing. And they continue supporting automation as well. It does, I think setting up a framework, it does take time. I've usually found it can take anything like 4 to 6 months before you're actually getting any sort of return of investment on them. It's one of those things, it just takes time. But I'd say starting small, starting simple, and then building up from there.
That's great, thank you. Next, Paul Davis, you have a question, please?
Hi, Louise. Thanks for your talk. I'm currently an automation test lead. I've been in automation now probably about around 7 or 8 years. Just with my present company, where I've been now for around just under 2 years. One of the challenges I get is the test teams. I was employed by a particular director who knows me very well. And to introduce test automation. So what I've done is I've gone in, originally did proof of concept on test automation as to what tools we use, and the route I went down is a Selenium WebDriver. The mindset of the actual test team is manual, and the challenge I get is how is the support, the opportunity to get into the business and things like this, is because the test teams, if I'm honest, is quite archaic in the old-fashioned styles of just purely manual test. They see test automation as like a BAU type of activity. I have updated this strategy to do this, but it's getting people's buy-in. and trying to promote automation through. I've done various demos with very senior people, but I do struggle on that, and I just wondered what you could advise.
As a test automation lead, you've probably got a lot more experience than me.
It's just, and even like, it's just trying to get it in and into like projects, because they still think they just think of it as a extra add-on, if you know what I mean, but it's not.
So you're saying that so your test automation is separate from the testing?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a test team, and yes, I've come under the same like a senior test manager.
Yeah.
But it's still not a team, if you know what I mean. We're still separate.
So I probably recommend, I don't know if you watched Ministry of Testing when they did Test Bash Home a couple of weeks ago. It was a fully 24-hour online conference. I watched most of it. I wasn't up for the full 24 hours. But there was one talk by Angie Jones, getting test automation into your definition of done. That is definitely one talk I'd recommend. I do have sketch notes on my blog for that one.
Okay.
But I think generally it's, I think what we've often done is for every new ticket, we've involved test automation as part of that ticket.
But that's the problem I get, is they keep overlooking automation.
Yeah. It is, so even then when we do that, we still often overlook it. It's usually the last task to get done, and if it's the end of the sprint, it then says, oh, well, we'll just not do it. It is, so it does happen, unfortunately. So I think generally I'd probably start by getting your testers in your team to just run the automated tests.
Yeah, we do that.
I think that's the easiest one to start with, to get them that experience and confidence. Again, just starting with running a test and then debugging them, just simple as that. And then if they don't have the confidence to fix them or update them, they can then bring you in. I'll probably also maybe get a test automation developer onto every team, to be part of the testing team rather than separate from them. And that would really, I think it would like just combine it. Maybe still have someone with that specialism, but just having them part of the team, I think that would probably be another thing I'd recommend.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is like frequent like show and tells, this type of thing.
Yeah. I think the pair programming thing would be very useful. So I said whenever I've done something, I thought, oh, I really should be showing this to the team. I then say, hey, come here, everybody, come here. Look what I've done. I even just undo all the work I've just did because I already know how to do it, which means it goes a lot more seamlessly then. And then get them in and just show them how it's done and look how easy it is.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big worries that they do get, and I know a lot of manual testers get this worry, is they think, oh gosh, automation's coming in, it's going to take over our jobs, that sort of thing. But what I actually see is it frees them up to do other things.
I think then actually, and I think maybe like advertising that, saying, we've had a failed test, would you mind investigating it for us? We failed it, this is what's failed, could you find out what's wrong with the application, if there's anything wrong with the application? So actually get them involved in it. So when a test fails, get them involved, tell them it's failed, and every time it's like oh, this test failed, and get them to find out what the problem is rather than you find out what the problem is. I think that would be another. And actually maybe also getting the test automation developers involved in exploratory testing as well, so that then they can see that, oh, they're doing that as well, and actually merge the two roles together, show that everyone can do. I think this particular talk that I've got the sketch notes for here, the difference between an SDIT and a tester is the focus on the specialism.
Yes.
And that's the only difference. That should be the only difference between the two. So getting both sides involved in the other people's tasks. But obviously try not to take exploratory testing away from them, because then they'll probably hate forever.
Oh god, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I have done on purpose with this particular company is I've introduced non-technical ways of doing automation. So I've gone down, I don't know how familiar you are with Selenium, is I've gone down the keyword driven route. So and then which is similar to going down the cucumber route.
That is really good. Like SpecFlow uses the Gherkin language. similar to Cucumber. So it's
Yeah.
probably the main reason that I think both are so popular now because of that. It gives the business that any people who don't understand code, they will know what the script does.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah.
Because that's my main challenge, is just getting the buy-in from others.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle for, oh gosh, a good year.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, cheers. It is a hard one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul. You want to share some thoughts and experience of our own as well in the chat, which might be some good information for yourself. Ramesh,
thank you.
Please. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thanks, Liz. Really enjoyed the talk. And I have 2 years of experience. So I worked there on Selenium WebDriver even. But just some of my friends were telling that they were struggling to gain the programming knowledge, and they are not aware how to start the programming language and everything. So just want to put a question to you, saying that there are some automation tools which no need of any programming language. So I just need to know what is the scope of those tools in the market.
Sorry, I think you broke up a bit though. Can you say that question again, please?
The question is, there are some tools in the market which no need of any programming skills. So just need to know what is the scope of those tools which may help some of my friends who have been triggering those questions about the programming language skills.
So is it tools that don't use programming language?
Yes.
Yeah. I've used RunnerX before, which it has like both codeless features and also does need code as well. So you can break down the test. You can either create a recording using that's codeless, it just says what it's doing, or you can add the code yourself, which I found quite useful because it's it allows new testers to get involved. It's less scary. They don't have to write the code. So that was always been pretty good, although I've heard it's quite expensive. Obviously, I've never been involved in actually tool selection. I've usually been told what tools I've got to use. I have, so I can only tell you ones I've tried briefly. Like Test Project it's codeless, and I've written a lot of articles for them actually, and it's also they have a free version as well, which is very good. And I've sort of had a little play about that in my own before myself, so that's usually one worth. And I've heard a lot of businesses mention it before as well, actually. So that's one that's worth looking at. We mentioned Cucumber or SpecFlow using the Gherkin syntax. Now, technically, it's not codeless, but it does have that nice friendly front end, which is in a more human readable language. And then you just drill down beneath it to see the code between each step. So those are the ones I've used. I did once go watch a demo of LeapWorks, which is codeless. And I was very impressed with it. I've never actually used it myself, but I was very impressed with it. At first, I was very skeptical, but when I saw how it worked, and it's probably a great one to understand how the flow of a program might work as well. So that was also probably a good one to look at. I've never used one professionally, like as part of in an actual workplace before. So how they might work in that environment, I'm not quite sure. So not sure whether I could possibly answer that so easily.
No problem. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Got one more question, Louise. This is from Amit Sakar. Should we focus on automation as a skill or automation as a mindset? Do you want to automate things as part of our day-to-day job, or do we focus on the tool programming language? I recently started learning automation on my own and posting my code on GitHub. Will that help me getting a job? It definitely will help you getting a job. I'll answer that one. Also, do we learn just a tool? Should we focus on the bigger picture, which is integrating the tool with a code repository or a continuous integration, continuous deployment tool, or even the cloud?
Quite
a lot in there.
So
I guess the first question, should we focus on automation as a skill or automation as a mindset?
You need both. You need both. I think I still don't know who said. I said during my talk, testers, they need the developer skill set, but the tester mindset. So you do need to look at both. If you've already got experience as a tester, then you probably already have that mindset in place, and it's just the skills that are holding you back, which is usually what I've seen. Personally, I think I think I can only go by my experience where I was a tester. I tested things manually first. I was an exploratory tester first, and then I became a test automation developer. So, and then beyond that, even then, I've always done both. I honestly don't think I could make the right decisions regarding test automation if I didn't have some knowledge of other testing strategies as well. So you need both. You need both. I don't think it could work with just one.
All right, then, guys, we're going to wrap it up there because we have gone a little bit over. Thank you so much for everyone that's attended. Really, really appreciate it. We're going to run these in the short period on a weekly basis. So it'll be Wednesday every day at 12 o'clock. To that note, we've got one upcoming next week at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, which is going to be called Baptism by Fire, Becoming a Modern Test Leader with Simon Pryor. We're always on the lookout for more speakers as well. So, if you're interested in doing that, please do reach out to me via the Meetup platform, or you can reach out to myself, Anthony Speed, on LinkedIn, or Matthew Drinkwater on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. Other than that, thank you very much for today. If you've got any questions, reach out to us after that. Thank you so much, Louise. That's been really, really awesome. Thank you for taking the time to do that for us. Okay, guys, take care then. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.